We have a very special presentation for you this morning. And Dwight Norris, this is your HDCWC life. Now I gotta tell you, we were at Corky's, and just to tell you how the conversation goes at Corky's, some of the guys were telling me, Mike, you need to get a picture of a baby, a naked baby with his butt in the air, and put Dwight's face on it. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, Dwight, this is your life. This is Dwight at a writing seminar, and look at this. I don't know if you can see it very well. But this is how Dwight organizes his books. This is a giant sheet of paper, and he has every scene in the book in one of these circles, and he writes notes. He knows the whole story from beginning to end. That's a fantastic process for writing. And then, so this was Dwight at Black History Month. We did a presentation at the library, and he was there. And this is him at the 31st anniversary of the club. We were at Bob Isbell's backyard. They had a really nice cake. And the kind of guy Bob Isbell was, I was still pretty new in the club. And Bob turns to me and says, Mike, can you go to Mama Carpina's and pick up the food? Okay, so I drive to the restaurant, and it's this giant thing of spaghetti, and I can barely manage it and get it to the event. But he knew how to delegate. Bob was great at delegating. So this is Dwight speaking to all of us at the event. This was Dwight doing poetry. He's there doing his best. This was a poetry seminar we had, and Dwight, you can think, now this is a better picture coming up. This is Dwight doing poetry, but notice he's cheating. He's looking at Lorelai's. This is why they had two that were identical that came in. This was Dwight at a salon at Richard Zone's house. And this was normal, Dwight surrounded by women. But we had some good times in Richard's living room. That was a really special time in the club. And then this is Dwight teaching. Again, he was reading and teaching, and he's done so much for this club through the years. And then this was Dwight interviewing Dean Koontz for the club. And this presentation is on our YouTube channel. And you would not believe the wisdom that both of these men had during that meeting. It was really something. And this is the last picture. This is just us hanging out, enjoying being together. So Dwight, that is your HDCWC life. I wanted to show real quickly, if you don't mind, I'm going to show you real quickly Dwight's latest adventure.
Oh boy, what could it be?
Dwight has written, oh, and it's not coming up. Okay, hold on. All right, more technical difficulties. All right, so let's see. Let me go to this and turn this off. You know, technology is fantastic when it works. And it does work sometimes. Not all the time. Okay, so let's try this. Here we go, and there it is. Okay, so this is Dwight's latest book. It's about his grandfather. Dwight was looking for something to write and something important to him, so he wrote about his grandfather. The title of the book is "To Me, He Walked on Water." And what a great title. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you there's some older pictures of his grandfather, and then some newer pictures, and then this is him. He was in the New York Stock Exchange. That's where he got his start and rose right to the top, was a really incredibly talented man. But I want to get to this part over here. This is going to be a picture book. Actually, he and Jenny are working on it right now, finishing up. This is what he loved to do with Dwight. They went fishing. And Dwight still loves fishing, and now his son loves fishing. All from his grandfather. And then...
There's no naked baby picture in there. But
no naked baby pictures of Dwight.
No. When he was about 3.
And then over here, look at this. He went on, Dwight's grandfather went on to become a priest and spent the last years of his life serving God and helping people. Was really highly regarded in the priesthood. So, I'm going to stop sharing that and turn this off. And it is my absolute pleasure and honor to be able to bring to the stage one of my best friends, probably one of the best friends I've ever had, and that is Mr. Dwight Norris. If you'll please give him a strong round of applause. So our format is, I'm just going to ask Dwight questions, and we're going to talk, and you guys get to listen in, and then we'll take our break, and then when we come back, you guys can ask questions. So before we start, Dwight, tell us what you've been doing the last 3 years, where you live now, and what's going on with you.
Yeah, thank you. It's hard for me to believe, but I live in an assisted living facility. How do you like that? So I never could have imagined it, but it's called Brookdale Assisted Living, and they really do. I have diabetes is the difficulty. And they really do know how to take care of their guests. They relieve us of all the stuff of shopping for food and cooking the food and laundry and all those things. They just relieve you of that. And so that's why I'm in there, and it has been helping quite a bit. So you want this back now?
The facility really is beautiful. It's like a 5-star hotel. It's very nice. The courtyard is beautiful. The people are nice. I've been down to visit Dwight, 4 or 5 times now. And we just hang out and go to lunch and spend time together and enjoy each other's company. Dwight is one of those, for me, Dwight is one of those forever friends. You know, somebody that you're always going to know all the way to the end. Dwight got me into this mess. Got me into leadership in the club. But the way he did it was so beautiful. He did it through relationship. You know, he asked me to be his vice president and told me it'd be no sweat, no big deal. He lied. But he's forgiven. But he just brought me alongside of him. And we worked hand in glove. And we worked together for years. And I just grew to respect and appreciate and really to love this man. And he told me one day, he said, Mike, think of the club, because we were both pastors. We both pastored churches in our earlier life. He said, think of the club like your flock. These are your people. And, you know, you've been put in a position where you have to watch out for the flock. And I've never forgotten that. That's been the best wisdom I could have received. So Dwight, tell us about, why did you want to write a book about your grandfather? Tell us what he means to you.
Well, it would be a long story, but he was just such a wonderful man. I mean, I had issues with my father, but my grandfather, now we could talk. And he was always kind, gentle, to the point. He would take us to the Brooklyn Zoo, for example, and you'd be right up there feeding the elephants by hand, right into the trunk, you know. And he'd take us to ball games, and just a very kind, giving person. And I guess the thought process was, I was looking at a lot of his pictures, thinking what a wonderful man he is. And then it just occurred to me that if I don't write something about his life, nobody even in the family, those that are 2 or 3 generations down the hill, they're not even going to know him. So I thought, wow, come on, I got to do better than that. And so I started collecting. He was an Episcopal priest at the end.
Yeah, Dwight often talked about his grandfather, and especially with fishing and some of the trips you guys would take. A lot of fun. So, when you're creating a book, let's say the book about your grandfather, did you run into any obstacles, any problems? Were there things that you couldn't include or anything like that, or things that you decided not to include because they weren't relevant? How did you sort?
Well, he was a public figure in downtown New York, the Episcopal Church, and he was one of the mainstays as far as being, he was photographed a lot. So I just followed through with what the availability was, and that was quite a bit. There was lots of photographs that were available from him, and since it was so easy to get pictures of him, it made it pretty easy to go ahead and do that. And the other things, we would take a trip, and I was 10 years old when his wife, my grandmother, passed away. Well, my grandfather always took a quality vacation every year, but this year he didn't have anybody to take with him. So he talked to my parents, got their permission, and I tagged along. 10 years old, I was able to tag along with him and just be part of a 2-week fishing trip in Canada. Now, I like to fish, but I had no clue what a high level this was of fishing, you know. And so then we get into, I mean, it was great. That trip was great, But then another year later, same thing situation, and it was offered to me to go with him again for another 2 weeks. This would be in Maine, and they had a beautiful lodge there, and so I got kind of hooked on fishing at a really high classy level, And so as it turns out, as you referenced, I didn't know that this was going to happen, but when you've got some experiences like that, you're not going to just settle for going down here and getting a 3-inch bluegill or something. You're going to go for the big fish, And so that's what happened. And my son now, if he can't catch a fish that weighs at least what he does, he's not interested. So anyway, it's just like a creative thing that has been carried on now. So that's the issue we've got.
Yeah, his son Craig goes deep sea fishing. Goes out in those where you fight the fish to get it on the boat. Yeah, but that came from your grandfather. That was passed down 3 generations. Okay, Dwight is still writing. Very important. My goal, and I've talked to Richard Spencer about this, my goal is to have several books started when I die. People die in the middle of book. Writers die halfway through writing a book, and then somebody else sometimes comes along and finishes the book. So that's what I want to do. I want to leave at least 2, maybe 3 books started and die right in the middle. And then leave it for other people to try to figure out where I was going. But see, Dwight has continued writing. He has not stopped writing. So he's been writing articles for his facility, the place he lives. He writes articles for their newsletter. And they came to him and asked him to write for them. So you wrote one. What was the one you wrote about a dog or a cat or something like that? I don't remember. I remember you wrote one. But tell us about your writing for that.
Well, first of all, it's kind of humorous in a way to me, is that when you walk in and you're introduced as an author, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't get over that. But people show a lot of respect, more than is warranted probably. But I know in this facility, sometimes I might be in the library, and one of the salesmen is bringing a family through, and they want to test out this facility for their loved one to come in, and they always introduce me like, "This is our author." I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just here reading a book. So, but you got to think about that. We all should die with a book in the works, right? It's got to be. That's the way it is.
Right. No, and it is funny because I've had meals with Dwight at his facility, and they all look at him like, he's our author. He's the author. That's the guy that writes the books. Tell them about the lady with the Sandy Armistead book. Remember that?
The lady with the Sandy Armistead book?
One of the books that Dwight wrote was called Sandy Armistead. And you said you gave it to a lady, or she had it, and she was so impressed, she ordered.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, she ordered 8 copies because she was wanting to give it out to her friends and family. 8 copies, It was pretty pretty good. It strikes me as funny because we just, have so many opportunities to get next to people and really help to accomplish. And let me tell how I met Sandy. All right, let me talk about Sandy Armistead. I go into a restaurant. It was an El Pollo Loco. Thank you, El Pollo Loco, and it was about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I have to walk down this aisle and get in the end of a line. And I didn't expect that, 1:30, I just wanted to go pick up my food. And so I get behind this man. He happened to be a black man, and he's standing there, and he looks at me, and I said, you would think that at this time of the day, you would be able to just walk in and pick up your food and leave. But no. And he smiled at me and he says, do you know why? I said, of course I know why, because the food's really good. That's why. And he laughed. And so then we're over at the soda machines, and I get talking to him. And I don't know why I said this, but I just... I asked him, I said, so what's your story? He says, what? Right about that pitch, too. And I said, well, you look like you got a story to tell. What's going on? And he just looks at me and says, what? So, anyway, we end up over sitting in a stool. And sure enough, it took me about 2.5 hours with him to convince him, let's write your story. He says, what? But I did convince him that we need to write a story. I said, you've got the experiences, the integrity, the fact that you've written about these. He didn't write about them, I did, but anyway, it was all just coming together. And I said the younger generation needs to experience what you have lived, because they're not getting this message. And so sure enough, that's what he agreed to do. I ended up interviewing him for about 25 times. And we would sit in the booth there, and it was probably, I'd say 2.5 hour sessions sometimes. I'd just take notes. And for a while, I didn't even really know where this story was going or where the book was going. But as it continued to develop, I was able to make some sense out of it and get it going in the right direction. So that's, and I guarantee you, I did not enter that restaurant with the intention of getting anything except a chicken sandwich. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. But it turned out to come out as a pretty decent story. As a matter of fact, let me just get this out.
Okay.
He was like 99 or something like that. He was in his late 90s, wasn't he?
He was early 90s, but he
96.
yeah, 96 years old. And he does have an incredible story. The Sandy Armistead book is wonderful. It's the full title is The Story of Sandy Armistead, A Black Man in a White Man's World. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So during the break, I'm going to put up on the screen all of Dwight's books and QR codes. So if you wanted to order any of his books, you can just go right to his Amazon page and order the books directly. But yeah, that Sandy Armistead story, the best part about it, in fact, let me let you talk about that. What do you think was the best lesson learned from the Sandy Armistead book?
Well, here's a man who just loved his family so much. There were 8 children in the family, 4 plus 4, and the father, as an example, the father worked for Ford Motor Company. He was a machinist. But he would get home and he would actually go and change his clothing into the Sunday best. He impressed his children with the fact that they were important. And it gets me emotional because, you know, that's what a family needs, is love and a connection. And this guy knew that that's what his father had done for him. He really conditioned him and made him appreciate what the family did. And also the mother, she did not work an outside job. She just worked awfully hard, providing food for 8 children. And that's how it all came together.
Yeah, terrific. We have a lot of new members in our club, Dwight, people that don't know you, people that have come since you left. Dwight, though, for those of you that are new, Dwight was our president for 8 years and gave so much of himself to this club. What advice would you give to brand new writers, people who are just starting out?
Well, I'd say one thing is you just have to know, if you're just getting started in writing, it's got to be for the long haul. Very few people sit down at the computer and 20 minutes later they have some instant hit. Doesn't happen that way, right? And so that's okay. Everybody's got to get started. I'm still waiting to sell my first book. Not really that bad, but it's pretty close. Well, I'm not good at marketing. I'll take a back seat also to Jenny. Jenny is a great writer. I read a book that she wrote, and I said, this is a masterpiece. But how's the marketing coming there?
Yeah, I think I've sold 10 copies, maybe. Given away more than I sold.
You know, there's so many different skill sets here. And marketing is one of those things that if you're good at it, man, you're going to talk to some potential customers. But if you're not good at it, or if you hate it, you resent putting the time into it, then you're going to be sitting on a lot of books instead of moving them out, you know. So there's just different things that different people like.
Yeah, I like that. So have the long vision. Don't get discouraged. Don't give up easily. It is a process, and for myself too, and I'm sure for you, I know for you, this is just what we're going to do the rest of our lives. We're going to write. It brings us joy. We leave. You know, the best thing about writing, I think, is that you leave behind something.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to leave behind this book about your grandfather. I've read Dwight's book, Charlie McCarthy. Now that should be a movie. If you ever hear of a producer or a director, somebody really big in Hollywood, and they mention to you, man, I wish I could find the book that should be a movie, call me. I'll hand them Charlie McCarthy. That's just a great book. And it's just terrific. I can't say enough about that book.
If Charlie's not available, check with Johnny.
Is it Johnny McCarthy? I'm saying Charlie McCarthy. Charlie McCarthy was that ventriloquist dummy. It's different, totally different thing. Johnny McCarthy. Johnny McCarthy. Thank you. Sorry.
Coal miner's son.
Yeah, the coal miner's story. The first line of the book is, the rats always...
The rats was never wrong.
The rats was never wrong. The rats was never wrong. And every line is just beautifully done. So, in the few minutes we have left, do you have any memories from being the president and what that was like for you when you were the president of the club?
Yeah. First of all, I'm reminded now that why I loved being president, because look at the people that we've got. There's something about, I guess, people that are writers that we want to do work with excellence. We really want to make a difference. And that's pretty important. The very first day, the first meeting that I conducted where I was going to be the vice president, no, not the vice president, I was going to be president at the end of it. I remember that this one lady sent me a note, and I knew there were papers, letters, and different papers that Jack London had made available to the club, and that was always on my mind, especially in this first meeting. And a lady called me, and then she said that she had these letters that were written by Jack London, and she wanted to know if I would like to have them. She'd mail them to me. I said, wait a minute, you've got letters from Jack London and you want to mail it to me? I said, where do you live? I was not going to take the risk of those documents floating around and getting lost, you know. And so sure enough, I went down to her house the next day and we got those documents. And for that to happen so early in the time of being president, I was very grateful that was still available. And we ended up getting on that, and we did revise a few things, because as you can imagine, in the time of Jack London, there were different styles of language that were acceptable, right? And we wanted to clean it up. If we're going to publish it as an entity, then we needed to face the fact that people don't appreciate that kind of speech today, you know. So we're going to do some revision like that, but it was all documented and handled properly, and that was the main thing. But that, yeah, I just thought, wow, that day was pretty important to me anyway, because we got through that. We got the documents, first of all. I didn't know if we'd have a hard time getting them or not, but that worked out very nicely. So this organization that you have joined as a writing student and as a contributor, this is what we do, and we have this document that we can promote and sell and live with these documents. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, the Jack London book was put together by a committee. You were on that committee, and I think, were you on that committee? No, you were not on that committee. Okay, so, but it was a committee, and they went through all those documents and everything, and they ended up with the book, Jack London in Boyhood Adventures. And it's now all over the place. Yeah.
Hi there. Is there any way that I could get a copy, or if anybody can get a copy of the unabridged version of all those letters? The reason why I ask is because a lot of my, not all, but many of my stories that I write are historical fiction. So in context with that, if I could get the language that was used at that time, and not, of course, not everything if it's bad, but if I can get the language, if I can get the flavor.
Yeah, come and see me at the break.
Okay.
We'll talk, because we still have all those. We still have the box of all those materials. So yeah, be happy to. Mr. Norris, I'm looking up at the clock and it's moving way too fast. I just want to ask you one more thing real quick, and take your time, you talk as much as you want. Dwight has had a very interesting life. So many different roles, so many different places. One of the things he did, and I got to tell this, or let you tell it, because it's so interesting, so different than what you might think. Dwight took karate when he was younger. He was quite adept, a black belt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and tell about that he studied under Chuck Sullivan, who became quite well known in karate, and actually, and I'm going to tell this real quick because of time, but they made a movie. There was actually a movie that was in the theaters about Chuck Sullivan, and Dwight was in the movie. And then so Dwight decided to have a showing of the movie at his facility and invited Chuck Sullivan to come, and he came. So they were at the facility, and there's the star, and it was just such a great event. But I want you to tell about the night when you were driving and you saw those guys.
Well, okay, I'm driving to work, and it was downtown Los Angeles. The facility there was I'm thinking, where did I work? I can't even think about it. All right. So I pull up, reporting to work in the evening, and it's about 7 o'clock, and sure enough, pull up to a red light, and I glanced over, and sure enough, there were like 6 older men just beating the crap out of an older man who was down on the ground and blood and all that. So I just put the brake on and I ran over to the car, or I'm sorry, I ran over to where they were, and the 6 guys, they were, having their way with this guy, and so I ran over there, and I got to tell a little bit of just background first. When I was in high school, I would see a lot of older, bigger kids just having their way with a younger kid. In other words, what I'm saying is they would lure them behind a building, and then they would steal their lunch money, and that used to just tick me off to no end, And so I vowed that is never going to happen to me. And I just, when it was time to go to high school, that's what I I started karate lessons in that year because I wanted to kind of insulate myself from that problem. And so here, 6 guys beating up on one guy, and so I ran back there, and I didn't strike anybody because just different reasons, but I did. I threw a few bodies. I would just go wham. I just threw I cleared the ground. And what happened was the 6 guys, they ran off to the side, and then they formed a huddle. So they're going to determine what's going to happen next. And so I'm standing there, and they're breaking the huddle, and they're coming in my direction. And I said, if you want to wind up in the hospital, keep coming, because I'm a black belt in karate, and that's going to be the end of it. And so they go back to another huddle. And then they come back and they approach me. By the way, the older guy was lying on the ground, blood, and he told me, he says, they got my wallet too. And I'm thinking, couldn't we worry about the wallet like tomorrow or something? But no, he wanted his wallet, so anyway, they come up to me. There's 6 of them, and there's always a leader in a group like that. And so sure enough, this guy pulls the wallet out and gives it to me. I think it was something people of the street would call it street creds, because you outdid them and they're going to respect it. I don't know, but that's the way that worked out. And then so I got him in the car and we took off. But yeah, that's what happened. So and then here's something I thought about this morning, just real quick. The first time I told anybody about this encounter was a time when Chuck Sullivan was in the group that I was talking to. And what happened was, I told him what happened, and then Chuck comes up to me afterwards. He says, where did you get that kind of an idea of that kind of story? I said, what do you mean story? I said, this is what happened like last night. And he couldn't believe it. But that's the way it went. And so, I just used my knowledge of the martial arts just to protect myself and others when it would be appropriate. That's about it.
See, I wanted that story in your mind. I wanted everybody to have that story because I've treasured that story. We're going to take a break, about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and you guys will have a chance to ask Dwight questions. Mr. Norris, would you please come up here? I know, you just got comfortable and you thought you'd be able to sit in the back and relax. Okay, have a seat. And we're going to do a Q&A. One of the things that happened this morning, again, technical difficulties. We have 2 microphones, but Mike was so upset about his dog and what was going on, he ran off and left one of the microphones at home. So we only have 1 microphone this morning. So if I can ask you, if you have a question for Dwight, or if you just want to talk to him, if you just want to tell him, Dwight, when you were president, you said this to me and it meant the world, and I never forgot it. You know, we don't do that enough. We wait, you know what we do is so stupid. We wait till funerals. We get up and we say, oh yeah, this guy, he was so important to me and he did this once and it changed my life. Well, maybe the guy would have liked to know that before he died. So if you have a great memory or if you have a question, what I'd like you to do is come on up. I'll hand you the microphone. You can ask and then we'll give it back to Dwight and he can answer. So anybody want to start? And Mira, it's good to see you. You made it. Mr. Foley.
I was sitting at home one night. The phone rings, and Dwight says, "Hey, it's Dwight. How you doing? We have some kids that send in. You know, we earn money by doing this review of the submissions." He said, "I said, how long would it take?" And he said, "Oh, just an hour or two." Well, that year there weren't very many volunteers. And I must have put 20, 30, 40 hours into that, reading the kids' stories from 8th grade all the way through high school. Anyway, thank you. I'm still doing it.
That's our Scholastic thing. Yeah, when we first started with Scholastic, there was a very small group that volunteered, which meant that everybody in it had to read story after story. Now, when we do Scholastic, we have 23 people sometimes. And so it makes the load really decrease for everybody. Everybody shares the load, so it's much better. But, okay, so tell me how Scholastic got started. Do you remember how we started that?
No, I don't.
Was it in place when you first started being president?
No, I don't think
So
so.
whose idea was it to get us involved with that? Do you remember? Because I don't know. It was already established when I came in.
I don't know.
You don't know. Jenny, how did we start with Scholastic? Do you remember?
They contacted Dwight. I don't remember. It's been. I just know Dwight came to me and said, "Hey, we've got this opportunity. It's good money. Seems like it would be a fit." How they found him, I don't know.
Well, I don't either.
He was standing at Belco Foil Logo.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where Dwight's headquarters was. So for those at home, Jenny explained that Scholastic contacted Dwight. Dwight talked to Jenny. They thought it would be a good idea for us to start the Scholastic program, and it has been a great idea. It has been the thing that's helped to fund our club. And honestly, it's the reason why we don't hit you guys up for money every time we do a meeting. Tom Foley is speaking.
$2,500 now. It's up to $2,500.
Yeah, we make $2,500 every year on this program. Tom Foley is speaking next Saturday, and they're charging $25.
50.
Is it 50?
Because they got 3 speakers.
They have 3 what?
They have 3 speakers, 3 presenters.
So it's $50 to go in, to the meeting next month at.
But you get a breakfast.
Yeah, you get a breakfast. The breakfast is good, but $50 to go to the meeting.
What meeting is that?
It's a club meeting like this in Bakersfield, but they're charging their members $50 to attend. So we're allowed to not charge you because we do the Scholastic thing. But that's, Dwight got that started. That's how we started our funding the club. Okay, who else has a story or question? Anita, come on up. Oh.
No. What? Don't stand in front of him.
Oh.
You're
All right,
standing in front of
so,
me.
okay.
This is actually from Freddie. She's on Zoom. And she wondered what gave you the idea to write The Gentleman Host. And for those who don't know about The Gentleman Host, if you could let us know what it's about.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that's it. I was on a cruise, as a matter of fact. And there were these gentlemen on the cruise that some of them looked like they worked for the cruise line and some of them didn't. And so I asked them, one of them anyway, what is your capacity to this, the line? And one of them said, well, I'm a gentleman host. I said, what's that? And he said, well, the cruise lines know that there's a lot of women who would travel on the cruise line. They have the money to do it, but they don't want to just do that and be there alone for the whole time. So it doesn't make sense. And so that's what a gentleman host. So they would dine with the women, they would dance with them, they would go on the onshore excursions with them and things like that. So I never forgot that when I heard that. And I thought, well, that makes pretty good sense. And so that is what they did. And so in my mind, I was already hunting down someone who was dumping women off of the cruise lines at midnight against their will. In case you didn't know that part. Oh my goodness. And so that's what was going on. And then I thought to myself, hey, what if, those two little words are pretty powerful, especially when you're creating something, you're writing. What if? And then I thought, that's it. This guy, we were after a guy, and we were trying to arrest him and put him out of business. And the only way to do that was to find the sick person who was violating the law and going after the women. So that's how that got developed into this story. And not a bad way to do it. And so then we had to go from there and piece it together. That's about it.
It's a really good book. I've read the book too. And it's so clever because the gentleman host, he is very careful to get to know each of the women and find out which of the women has nobody picking them up after the cruise, so they're available and they're vulnerable. And he'll drop the woman off the cruise on the last night, and then nobody finds out that she's missing for days. All of a sudden it comes up, oh, she's missing, I wonder what happened. And it never gets traced back to him. So, very clever. All right, I want more questions. Yes. And Janice, you're next. Come on up, Janice.
Can you go over your process on outlining? He showed us a picture of you having an outline of your book before you ever write it, and talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Good question.
Yeah, speaking about an outline and kind of getting ready to write, I would call it. And so what I would recommend, I like to work on big sheets of paper because I want to be able to be authentic when I'm writing. And if I'm going to be authentic, I have to know the details of what I'm putting into this body of print. And if I don't have that, then I'm not ready to write. I don't know about you, but I like to sit down and I like to have all the details worked out. And if I can do that, then I'm comfortable to write and fill the chapter. There are other situations where people say, well, you know, unless they're moved by something, then they're not ready. You've got to figure out when you're going to be ready. Be ready when you got enough details to fill in. And you always want to be authentic. You don't want to just make something up and have it, even just a casual reader looks at it and says, well, I'm not ready, but, you know, I'll try. But no, you got to get ready. You got to get the details worked out. And that's mainly what I would recommend doing. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah, Janice.
First of all, do you have copies of your book here today? Any of your books?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. And are you selling them today?
Yes.
That's good to know. Hint. Second of all, who was the president before you? When did you become the president? And how long were you the president? For those of us that don't know that information.
Okay. Well, let's see. I was president for 8 years, but it was, as I recall, it was 4, and then 2 off, and then 4 again. So that's the time in which I was president. And the books, most of them are here. What price did I tell you? $10. Okay, if you're interested in the book, just it's $10. That's all. Even. We'll take care of the rest of it. And what else did you want to know?
Who was president?
Who was president before you and how did you become the president?
Okay, Freddie Gold was president before I was. And, you know, sometimes when you get to the, yeah, there we go. When you get to the point of having someone become president, there's a lot of details to that. And a lot of people are hesitant to take that on. And if that is the way it is, that's the way it is. But I had a situation, could you hand me that? Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I had, and I'll tell you this because what you've asked reminds me of this. And sure enough, we had a member, Freddie Gold, who was president before me. And she took it, as far as I know, just to help out. And that's what she did. But I remember the day that the voting was done and I was elected president. And we had this gold bell that was like ding, 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 you know.
Cowbell.
That's the one. Is it still around somewhere? And so she takes that cowbell and she passes it off to me. And when I took it, she was smiling so broadly. I said to her, I said, you know, you got a big smile on your face by getting rid of this bell. This could be a big mistake. So anyway, but that's what it was. And that's where we are then today. And I have most of the books. I don't think I have an extra
Gentleman host.
Gentleman host, yeah. May not have that, but I think I have all the others, if you're interested in that.
But they are all still on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are you happy to be back today?
Yeah, sure am.
I'm
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Very nice.
Dwight,
Yeah.
were you president in 2013? Because that's the year I joined, and I think you were going from Freddie to you, and I joined it, and we had it at the library, Apple Valley Library. Remember, it was 2013?
I think it would have been earlier than that.
Earlier than that?
Yeah. Because it was, there were 2 months, 2 weeks, I guess, off
2 years.
prior to that. And if it was 2, there just wouldn't have been enough open space there. Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to know how to become a gentleman host.
I got to tell you a little story on that. You're on the right track. Yeah, the situation with that is you got to be a good dancer for number one. Always looking for good dancers. If the man is not a good dancer, you're probably going to have a hard time.
That's me out.
Oh, no. Well, you could practice. But, and people have enough class, you know, to take the woman to dinner and so on and so forth. So that's kind of... Now, what I've noticed in the news, here I am, I write this book about the gentleman host. And you know what the deal is? So that he can get away with murder. That's what the whole thing is about. And you might say, well, why is he writing something like that? I'm not advocating murder against anybody, okay? But when the issue comes up, you just have to realize that this is the efficient way to do it. And oh my goodness.
You gotta write this down.
So this is a how-to book, right?
Yes, but he practices with goldfish.
what?
Remember the goldfish scene? He's got these goldfish, and he puts them in the toilet, and he flushes the toilet, and he watches them go down, and he thinks about how the women get sucked into the...
Oh, no.
You know, when he throws them overboard. There's a whole scene in there where he's flushing the goldfish.
You read too carefully.
It's what you pay me for.
But here's the thing that happens. When you have, and this happened when I was on a cruise, it wasn't on our cruise ship that this happened, but there was a woman who was murdered by her husband on the cruise ship, and the guy shot her to death and stored her body in one of the compartments there. What's wrong with this picture? If he read my book, he would have known exactly what to do, and that wasn't it. Okay. Because
So,
think about
Dwight,
it.
it is a how-to book.
But think about it here, because you've got a man who wants to be rid of his wife, and he goes ahead and has her killed. He discards the body overboard. Hey, you got to deal with it, right? And so when that happens, but when you have someone who has the opportunity to use the ship itself in the dead of night and doesn't do it, but kills her and leaves the body behind as evidence, what sense does that make? You know? So anyway, this is the adult version of whatever. All right.
Any other, well, you got more questions? Take a couple more and then we'll wrap it up.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you've written 6 books now?
For Johnny McCarthy.
I think 4. plus, five.
Okay,
Five, yeah.
okay, so what advice can you give us about having maybe a daily writing practice? Or something like that? What's your writing schedule like?
Okay. My writing schedule, I like to write when I feel ready to put the ink on the paper. And it has nothing to do with, oh, I write in the mornings, I write in the evenings. No, it's not about that, to me anyway. But it is about, I'm ready mentally. I've got, in my mind, I've got it figured out to that extent. And if I'm doing that, then I'm ready to proceed. And it doesn't present a difficult problem to me. I just kind of walk through that space that my mind has given me. But you've got to be ready. If you're not ready to write, don't write.
Real quick, tell the story of Julie Hanson and writer's block. What she said about writer's block.
I got you. All right. We were doing a workshop of some kind, and the question was asked, what do you do if you experience writer's block? Okay. And so we had this 12-year-old girl, I think she was 12, and she's in our workshop. We knew she was a very smart girl, but the age of 12, I wasn't expecting her to be able to answer a question like that. Writer's block, what do you do? Whew. So, to my surprise, I was going to answer it, but to my surprise, she stepped up, and this 12-year-old said, well, if I have writer's block, then I realize I have to go back and delve into this area with more study so that I'll have the answers to that. And then I can go back and make that correct. And when she said that, I thought, 12 years old, she did that? So that, and that is essentially, you got to restudy that area. You didn't get what you needed from that block of information. And that's how that would come together for me. You just, got to do that.
Yes.
Okay, we are out of time. Can we please give Dwight a big hand? Thank you for coming today. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this meeting for a long time. Dwight, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me personally, and for our friendship, for everything you taught me. And I always give you credit when people say, oh, you're a good president. I said, well, I learned from Dwight what that looked like. So thank you. I appreciate you more than I could say. And we are done for the morning. Some of Dwight's books are up here, and there's some more in the bag. We'll put those over here also. And then I'm going to put the QR codes up. If you'd like to buy his books on Amazon, they're available there. Thank you again, Dwight.